That morning, the sky was dusty, as if it was going to rain, but Lin Xiaotang still got up at 6:30 as usual. She rubbed her sleepy eyes, stood in front of the window and stretched out her waist, looking at the city outside the window, which had not yet woken up completely, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. She likes this kind of calmness in the morning, as if the whole world belongs to her, and her small world, honey house, is about to usher in a new day in this calmness. Xiaotang changed into a simple white shirt, with a clean apricot-colored skirt on the outside, and her hair was casually shaped into a low tail, revealing her clean size. When she got off the floor, the store was still quiet, and the milky aroma left by the baked cake yesterday was hidden in the air. She took a deep breath and felt that this was her favorite taste of life. When she opened the kitchen, she began to prepare today's ingredients, such as flour, eggs, and cream, just as well, and her movements were as gentle as if she was treating something. The honey house is not big. Just in the corner of this old street, the store is only a few 10 square meters. After several small tables and chairs, there are still several pots of green on the window. When the sun is good, the leaves will shine bright green. The decorations in the store are very simple, with wooden tables and chairs and some hand-painted dessert illustrations on the wall, all of which are painted by Xiao Candy. Although the place is small, everyone who has come here says that there is a magic that makes people relax, as if they can remove all the fatigue of the day. Xiaotang likes to make desserts since she was a child, probably because her mother used to be busy in the kitchen, and the cookies and cakes she baked always make the house full of warm flavor. Later, the mother left, and this warmth became the most precious memory in Xiaotang's heart. She studied design at university, but after graduation, she decided to open a dessert shop and use her own handicraft to treat others, just like her mother who treated her back then. The first batch of desserts today was the lemon chiffon cake. She lowered her head and carefully beat the egg whites, and started to count the recent business in the store. In fact, although the honey house is famous nearby, it is actually a small business, and the rent and material fees add up. The pressure is really considerable. Sometimes she would also wonder whether to do more online promotions, but when she thought that she was not good at growing those fancy things, she gave up again. It's better to make desserts. She thought to herself that as long as she is careful, there will be a reply. Just as I was thinking, the wind at the entrance of the store suddenly rose up, and the crisp sound broke the tranquility of the morning. Xiaotang was stunned for a moment, and looked up. A familiar figure stood at the door, Su Xiaoman, her best pajamas, wearing a sportswear, and carrying a bottle of beans in her hand, smiling like a little son. Xiao Candy. It's so early. I just finished my morning jogging and came to see you, so I could have breakfast. Xiaoman came into the door and pulled up the chair and sat down, staring at the direction of the kitchen with his eyes fixed on the way. What delicious food to cook today. Are you free of my portion? Xiaotang smiled helplessly, put the egg whites in his hand into the mixer, wiped his hands and walked over. Are you a man running to lose weight? Why did you come here to eat after running? Weight loss is weight loss, food is delicious food, it's not a mistake. Xiaoman felt impatient, took a sip of beans, and then leaned closer, and said in a low voice, Yeah, Xiaotang, I heard a new company nearby yesterday, and I heard that the boss is very rich, and the employees are several hundred people. You said, if they can get their orders and give them afternoon tea, wouldn't your small shop be released? Xiaotang heard it, curled her lips and said, Come on, there is no such easy thing. A big company must have fixed partners, so how could he like me like a small broken store? Besides, I won't take the initiative to start a business, and I'll still be my dessert. Xiaoman heard this and was anxious and slapped the table. Hey, my Miss Xiaotang, when can you change your personality? Isn't it just a matter of taking the initiative in business? Why don't I help you ask? Maybe the boss will give you your cake and Lima will order. Xiaotang was amused by her and thrust her hand. Okay, if you like Xiaotang, go Xiaotang. Anyway, I don't have hope. Come on, help me put this cake into the oven, don't just say it's not practice. Xiaoman muttered a few words, but still stood up obediently to help. The two of them were busy and chatting, and the atmosphere in the store suddenly became warm. Xiaotang looked at Xiaoman's busyness and felt warm in her heart. She knew that although Xiaoman always complained that she was not upset, she actually cared about her store. When the first batch of cakes came out, it was almost 8 o'clock, and people began to come in at the store gate. Some were nearby residents and some were office workers passing by. Xiaotang was busy greeting customers, collecting silver and packing them. Occasionally, he would chat with regular customers about how they have been doing recently and whether they need any special desserts. Her smile was always gentle, making people feel comfortable, like a spring breeze. At this moment, the wind at the store door was shocked again. Xiaotang raised his head intently and was stunned for a moment. The people who came in were wearing a straight suit, and their atmosphere was so strong that they were out of place with this small shop. He wore a pair of delicate framed glasses, with no expression on his face, and his eyes were cold, as if who owed him millions. Xiaotang muttered in his heart, why did this person see this difficult relationship, but he still asked politely, hello, what do you need to ask? The man did not answer directly, looked down at his phone, and then said in a low voice, I came to get the order. The 50 afternoon tea set I ordered yesterday, the name is Zhanichen. When Tang heard this, his brain was a little confused. What was the order yesterday? Why didn't she remember having such a freshman? She flicked through the records on her phone. Sure enough, a strange number sent a message last night, saying that she wanted to order 50 afternoon teas and paid a deposit. She was busy cleaning the kitchen and replied without looking at it carefully, but she completely forgot about it. Ah, sorry, I didn't notice this order yesterday, and I haven't prepared it yet. Xiaotang explained in an embarrassing way, his face slightly red, look, why don't I beg for it now? It will take about 2 hours. Can you please wait a moment? The man heard it, his eyebrows became even tighter, and his language showed obvious impatience. 2 hours? I'll use the meeting at the 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's now 8:30, how do you want me to wait? Xiaotang's heart sank. Knowing that this time it was my negligence, he quickly apologized, I'm really sorry, it's my fault. Otherwise, I should speed up as much as possible and make it within an hour and a half. Do you think it's okay? Or I can refund your deposit and give you a small cake as a supplement. The other party looked at her coldly, without saying a word, just clicked, then walked to the seat by the window and sat down, and began to look at the phone with his head down. Xiaotang relaxed her breath, but her heart was still full of ups and downs, so she rushed back to the kitchen and started working. She needed the noodles and took self-inflicted. How could she make such a low-level mistake? Once this order is screwed up, the reputation in the store is over. Xiaoman also came here and asked in a low voice, what's going on? Who is that person? It looks very difficult to mess with. Xiaotang smiled bitterly and said, I don't know. I should be an employee of which company I should be. I came to pick up the afternoon tea order. I didn't pay attention yesterday, so I can only go to work now. Please help me to greet other guests, I'm dedicated to doing this. Xiaoman was slightly lit up, but before leaving, she couldn't help but look at the man more and muttered, with this kind of atmosphere, why don't you feel like an ordinary employee? You might be a big shot. Xiaotang didn't care about her, so how did she get these 50 sets in her brain? Her feet were quickly prepared with ingredients, and the baking plates entered the oven one by one, with fine beads of sweat emerging from the top. The air in the store became more and more popular and the sweet fragrance became more and more heavy, but she didn't feel relaxed at all, just thinking about not letting this customer wait too long. At the same time, the person sitting by the window, who was speaking, was indeed not an ordinary employee. He is the president of the Xingzi Group who moved to this area. Today is the first day of the company's entry into the new building. The afternoon meeting was a consultation with important customers. He specially asked his assistant Zhanichen to order afternoon tea, hoping to leave a good impression on the other party. As a result, Zhanichen had something to do at the moment, so he could only take it for him to come and take it himself. Unexpectedly, he encountered this kind of thing again. He raised his head and looked at the busy Xiaotang, his eyes still cold, but there was a little surprise in his heart. This store looks inconspicuous, and the owner is a little girl who looks a little busy, so why do there are so many regular customers? From now on, the customers coming in and out have not stopped, and some people even greeted her specifically, like an old friend. He narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking that this place was a little interesting. Time passed by minute by second, and Xiaotang finally packed the last set meal in an hour and a half. She wiped the sweat from her head, walked to the chanting, and said carefully, "Sir, your order is ready. I'm really sorry for letting you wait for a long time. This is a 50 afternoon tea set, each with a small cake and a cup of handmade lemon tea. In addition, I've given you an extra strawberry mousse, hoping to replenish my mistakes." When Gu Yanze stood up and took the bag, his eyes stayed on her face for a second. The eyes were clean and bright, with apologies and tightness, which made people inexplicably not feel good about getting angry again. Xiaotang looked at his back and relaxed his voice for a long time, feeling that he had just passed away. Xiaoman came out from the side at this time and said with a smile, "Xiaotang, you just looked like a young wife and a woman, so scared." But seriously, that person was quite handsome, just too cold and it felt difficult to get close to. Xiaotang gave her a blank look and said in a bad mood, "What's the use? I can't stand the bad temper. Okay, don't gossip, help me clean up the store, I have to go to the back kitchen to order the goods." Xiaoman stuck out her tongue and began to help clean the table. Xiaotang returned to the kitchen and found that his heart was a little empty. Maybe it was just too tight. She snatched her head, told herself not to think more, and continued to focus on preparing for the next batch of desserts. On the other side, Gu Yanze sat in the car and opened a package of the package. The small cake looked ordinary, but the first bite he took was slightly stunned. The cake is soft and delicate, with a faint lemon fragrance. It is just so sweet, neither soft nor light, as if it can be sweet directly into the heart. He was silent for a while, picked up his mobile phone and sent Zhang a message, "In the future, let's book this store for the company's afternoon tea." He didn't know that this simple message would become the starting point for a sweet story between him and Lin Xiaotang. A few days passed, and the order waves of that venue faded away in Lin Xiaotang's heart. She still got up early as usual, busy preparing for the desserts of the Honey Lodge day. The morning sun shone through the window and landed on the flour bag beside her hand. There was a faint milky fragrance in the air, making people feel at ease. However, what she didn't expect was that the cold man, his sarcastic words would have quietly communicated more closely because of the casual message. That morning, the morning rush hour was just passed in the store, and Xiaotang was rubbing the cabinet with his head low, and the wind swelled up again. She looked up and saw that it was not someone else coming in, but Zhang, the assistant who came to get the order that day. He was wearing a clean and neat shirt, a professional smile on his face, and a business card in his hand. "Miss Lin, right? I am Zhang from Xingza Group. I really thank you for your ordering last time." He spoke very politely and passed the business card, and then said, "Our boss is very satisfied with the desserts of your store. He plans to cooperate with you in the company's afternoon tea in the future. This is a long-term order, at least twice a week, about 50 to 100 copies each time. Do you think there is any problem?" Xiaotang was a little confused, and even his hands that received the business card were just a little bit. She looked down at the word Star Group on her business card, and felt a little excited. This is a big order. If it can be stable, the pressure in the store will be much lighter. But she still asked cautiously, "Thank you for your trust, but this amount is a bit large. I have to check the materials and time arrangements first. Can I give me a day to consider it?" Zhang pointed and smiled and said, "Of course there is no problem. We are not in a hurry anyway. If you think about it, call me, and my number is on it. By the way, our boss said that the taste of dessert can be changed a little bit, especially the kind of lemon-style cake, which he really likes." When Xiaotang heard this, she smiled unconsciously on her face and felt a little proud. It turns out that the man who looks bad to meet is quite familiar with the goods. She quickly replied, "Okay, I will remember. Thank you for your purpose." Zhang snatched his hand and bought 2 small cakes before leaving, saying that he would take them back for his colleagues to taste. Xiaotang looked at his left back, and his heart felt as sweet as if he had eaten honey. She took out her cell phone tightly and sent a message to Xiaoman. Xiaoman. Big news. I may have to take a big order. Xingzi Group, have you heard of it? They want to cooperate with me for a long time. After a few minutes, Xiaoman's phone call came, and the voice was filled with excitement. Really, fake? Xingzi Group? That's one or two major companies in the city. Xiaotang, you're about to come out. Let me tell you, their boss's words are not ordinary people. They say that the Chinese Super League is difficult, but they are also super rich. The cold-faced man you met last time might be himself. Xiaotang heard it and curled her lips. Come on, it's not that coincidental. Besides, the boss doesn't have time to come to my store to get an order. He probably is an ordinary employee. But no matter who he is, I'm very satisfied to take this order. Xiaoman said 2 times on the phone, you are just too low-key. Let me tell you, this is an opportunity, and I may be able to get to know some big names. By the way, I will come to your store tonight. Let's discuss how to take this order and give me a happy blessing. Xiaotang responded with a smile. After quitting the phone, she still couldn't help but feel some expectations. She began to calculate that if she really took this order, she had to make more materials, adjust her daily schedule, and maybe even ask for help. Thinking of this, she felt a little painful again. After all, the honey hut was always her. At first, such a big change was really unsuitable. In the evening, Xiaoman was indeed in a hurry, and she was carrying a bottle of soaked water in her hand, saying that it was to refresh Xiaotang. The two sat at the small table in the store and started talking about the important things. Xiaoman drank soaked water while helping Xiaotang with advice. I think you have to talk to the supplier of materials first. If the quantity is large, the price will definitely be reduced. Also, in terms of time arrangement, you can make large desserts in the morning and get individual customers in the afternoon. This is not a mess. Xiaotang listened carefully, and occasionally recorded a few key points. She knew that although Xiaoman was careless, her brain was still quite spiritual at the critical moment. As we chatted, the topic was turned to the slang again without thinking. Xiaoman asked with a gossip, you said, if that cold-faced man was really polite, what would you do? He was in a golden body, and how many people wanted to get close to him? Xiaotang was amused by her and shook her head helplessly. Your brain is too big. What can I have with him? He is a tall boss, and I am a small shop owner, and I can't fight. Okay, don't think about it, help me finish writing tomorrow's list of materials, I have to rest early. Xiaoman muttered a few words, but still helped. The two people were busy until almost 9 o'clock before the store was packed. Xiaotang sent Xiaoman to the door. When he looked up, he found that it was completely dark. The street lights were lit. Occasionally, there were several cars passing by, which made this old street very peaceful. She took a deep breath, feeling that she had been fulfilling and exhausted this day, but she had a feeling of indescribable satisfaction. At the same time, in the high-end document building on the other side of the city, Lin Xiaotang was sitting in the office, with documents piled up on the desktop. He rubbed his eyebrows, his eyes a little tired. Zhang Yichen knocked in and reported the progress of several projects. Before leaving, he said, yes, boss, the owner of the honey cabin said he would consider it for 1 day and would probably reply to me tomorrow. You see, if she accepts the order, do we have to confirm the taste and delivery time with her in advance? I heard the words, and the words were plain. Well, you can watch it. In terms of taste, let her make more lemon-flavored cakes, and the rest will be tasted by her. Zhang Yichen responded to a sound, and couldn't help but laugh in his heart. He followed Gu Yanze for so many years, and he still saw the boss paying attention to such a small thing as dessert. It seems that the cakes in this small shop are really magical. In the next few days, Xiaotang officially signed a cooperation agreement with the Xingzi Group, providing afternoon tea twice a week, with 80 servings each time. In order to pay for this order, she had to adjust the rhythm in the store, get up at 4:30 every morning, first prepare Xingzi's orders, and then prepare individual customers' desserts. Although she was so tired that her back was sore, every time she saw the extra numbers in her account, she felt that everything was worth it. This day, she just delivered the first batch of afternoon tea to the main building of Xingze Group. When Zhang Yichen came down to pick up the goods, he smiled and said, "Ms. Lin, your sweetness is getting better and better." Our colleagues all said that afternoon tea time is the most anticipated moment of the day. Yes, our boss is also very satisfied. He said that next time he has the opportunity to talk to you and see if he can add some new products. After hearing this, Tang heard it and felt a little excited, but he still said in a false voice, "Thank you for your love. I will think about what new flavors can be added. If I have the opportunity to chat with guest, of course it is my blessing." Zhang Yichen pointed at the head and reminded her before leaving, "Our boss is usually very busy, but he is still good. Don't be nervous, you really have the opportunity to chat, he will definitely hear you seriously." Xiaotang responded with a smile and then watched Zhang Yichen go upstairs before turning away. She stood under the building of the Xingze Group, looking up at the high-pitched glass building, feeling indescribable emotion in her heart. Once, she thought that her world only had a small space of more than 10 square meters of honey house, but now, her small shop can actually be related to such a big company, which feels like a dream. As the days pass by, the cooperation between Xiaotang and Xingze Group is becoming more and more successful. Occasionally, Zhang Yichen will come up with some new ideas, such as adding a limited seasonal flavor, or making some small snacks with coffee, and remembering them one by one, and trying to adjust them seriously. She found that although the workload was too high, her enthusiasm was even higher, as if she had found a new goal. In the evening, she was busy cleaning the kitchen, and the wind at the entrance of the store started to rush again. She thought it was Xiaoman who came to sip, and she shouted without raising her head, "Come on, sit and wait a moment, I'll be fine." But when she wiped her hands and walked out, she was stunned. Standing at the door was not Xiaoman, but his words. He was still wearing a straight suit, and his atmosphere was so strong that the whole shop seemed a little cramped. His eyes were still cold, but it seemed to be a little softer than the first time he met. He glanced at Xiaotang and said, "Miss Lin, I am a polite person. I heard that your dessert is very popular with our employees, so I came here specifically today to talk to you about future cooperation." When Xiaotang heard this, his heartbeat suddenly accelerated a few points. She quickly smeared the flour on her hands, and smiled embarrassedly, "Hello, Chief. I really didn't expect you to come here by yourself. Please sit down and I'll pour you a glass of water. Speak with a little bit, sit down in the seat by the window, and look over every detail in the store." Xiaotang brought a glass of warm water and sat opposite him, feeling a little nervous, but he still plucked up his courage and said, "General, thank you for your support for the Honey Lodge. If you have any ideas or suggestions, you can tell me at any time that I will make the best efforts to improve." Jason Chan sat a moment, picked up the cup and drank a sip of water, and then said bluntly, "Your dessert is indeed good, especially the lemon-flavored cake, which tastes very special. I think our company may have more activities in the future, such as annual meetings or customer receptions. Are you interested in receiving such a single serving?" Xiaotang heard it and his eyes lit up, but he was a little hesitant, as aware, "Thank you for your trust. However, the number of units for such a big event is definitely not small. I may be too busy to come." Her words stopped her, and her words were calm and serene, with unquestionable force. "If you don't have enough staff, please help me. If you don't have enough funds, I can prepay a part of the fee in advance. Miss Lin, I can see that your dessert is your attention. This quality should not be limited to the small shop. Consider it, if you are interested, we can discuss it more." Xiaotang was stunned, not expecting that he would say so directly. She looked down at the water cup on the table, and her heart felt like she had a bottle of 5 flavors. The words of politeness are undoubtedly the greatest affirmation of her, but at the same time it also makes her feel pressured. Expand the scale and take larger numbers, which is something she never thought of. She was afraid that she would not do well and was afraid that she would be in the trust of others. After seeing her without saying anything, he stood up and said lightly, "I have something to do, let's go first. Think slowly, Zhang Yichen will contact you." After speaking, he turned away, leaving behind a cold back. Xiaotang watched him disappear from the door, and his heart was still a mess. She picked up her cell phone and wanted to call Xiaoman to talk about this, but her fingers stopped on the screen and put them down again. She knew that this time was not a problem that could be solved by simply chatting. She had to think about what she wanted. At the same time, Gu Yanze sat in the car. Zhang Yichen glanced at him from behind and couldn't help asking, "Boss, why did you suddenly run to that small shop today? Isn't this kind of thing the usual thing is about?" Gu Yanze leaned on the seat, closed his eyes, and spoke in a plain manner, "It's nothing, I just want to see what's special about that store." Zhang Yichen smirked and didn't ask any more, but he knew in his heart that his boss was probably more concerned about this small shop than he had shown on the surface. And besides Xiaotang, he was lying in bed at night, and his brain was still talking. She turned around and couldn't sleep, so she got up, walked to the window, and looked at the old street in the night. Her honey hut has always been her small shelter, but now, this shelter seems to be about to turn into a small boat and drive towards a wider sea area. She didn't know if she had the courage to sail, but there was a voice in her heart telling her, maybe this was the opportunity she had been waiting for. A few days later, Xiaotang finally plucked up his courage and called Zhang Yichen, saying that he was willing to try to get a larger single. Zhang Yichen heard it and said with a smile, "Miss Lin, I knew you would not refuse. Don't worry, we will give you enough time to prepare," and the boss also said that he will help solve some of the funds and manpower. Xiaotang heard the sound of the phone, and the stone in his heart fell to the ground. She knew that this road would not be easy, but she also understood that there were some things that would never know the result without trying. Since that day, she has been busy contacting material dealers, recruiting helpers, and even reporting a short-term management course to learn something on business. Although she was so tired every day, she smiled more and more, as if she had found a new kind of motivation. Although he still looked cold on the surface, when he heard Zhang Yichen mentioning the progress of the honey house, he would unconsciously squint the corners of his mouth. He didn't say anything, but he began to look forward to the small shop, and the girl who smiled like sunshine could bring more different sweetness to his life. After several months, Lin Xiaotang's life seemed to be pressed as acceleration key, so busy that he was not touching the ground, but his heart was full of realism. Since answering the order of the company, Honey House has been no longer just the small dessert shop on the corner of the old street, but has begun to become a small brand with a bit of popularity. She asked 2 helpers, one responsible for reception at the front desk and the other to help. Although the staff was still tight, she could totally meet the daily order volume. The business in the store is getting better and better. Not only is there a long-term cooperation from the Xingzi Group, but several nearby small companies have also heard about her desserts and have been coming to the door. That morning, Xiaotang got up at less than 5 o'clock as usual and prepared the afternoon tea order of Xingzi Group. She stood in the kitchen, stirring the cream low, and fine beads of sweat appeared on the base. It wasn't bright outside the window, and there were only the low sound of the oven moving and her occasionally humming tunes in the store. Although she was tired, she still laughed unconsciously every time she heard the scent of the cake. She thought to herself that this is probably her favorite life, using her own hands to bring some little luck to others. While busy, the wind at the store door suddenly started to rise. Xiaotang was stunned for a moment, and looked up. Su Xiaoman was wearing a casual dress and carrying 2 cups of hot coffee in her hand, and walked in with a smile. "Xiao Candy. I'll be with you early in the morning. Are you moved? Come on, have a cup of coffee to refresh yourself, don't be tired." Xiaoman passed the coffee over, pulled the chair and sat down, staring at the oven with his eyes straight. "Is it the lemon and chiffon again today? What's the boss's favorite?" Xiaotang took the coffee, took a sip, rolled her eyes helplessly. "You are not just talking." "Yes, why have you been here long ago? Have you been asleep?" Xiaoman smiled, and approached a little, and said in a low voice, "I didn't hear that you have been working with the Xingzi Group recently, so I came to see if you were fascinated by the iceberg face of the verbal face. Seriously, have you seen a lot recently? Has he ever smiled at you? Do you have any special expressions?" Xiaotang was asked by her and she tightened her hands, don't talk nonsense. I'm a pure cooperative relationship with him, so it's not as much as you think. He's the big boss who is so busy that I'm just a dessert, and I'm just a dessert, and I can't fight anything. Okay, stop gossiping, help me put this plate of cake into the oven. Xiaoman muttered a few words, but still helped. The two of them were busy and chatting, and the atmosphere in the store became warm. Xiaotang looked at Xiaoman's heartless look, and her heart was warm. She knew that no matter what happened to her, Xiaoman would always be the first person to stand up and help her. At around 10 o'clock in the morning, the orders of Xingzi Group were totally prepared, and Xiaotang drove to their company building. Zhang Yichen had been waiting under the floor. When he saw her coming, he came to meet him with a smile. "Miss Lin, thank you for your hard work. Recently, our colleagues have said that your sweet spots are becoming more and more creative. The matcha mousse last week was completely empty. The boss also said that you have a lot of ideas." After hearing this, Tang felt a little proud, but she still said, "Thank you for the award. I am very happy to make everyone like it. Yes, I have been trying some new flavors recently. If possible, I want to bring some samples next time to taste it, so that you can taste it or not." Zhang Yichen clicked the head, and when he received the order, he mentioned it. "Good idea. In fact, the boss has also paid close attention to your store recently, saying that he would like to talk to you when he has time to see if he can expand his cooperation. If you have time, you can directly ask him to talk to you." Xiaotang was stunned for a moment, and his heartbeat was a little faster. She lowered her head and sorted out the single touch in her hand, covered her tightness, and smiled and said, "Okay, if you have time, I will certainly have no problem. Please help me with the time to ask him." Zhang Yichen responded to a voice, and before leaving, he deliberately sings, "Don't be nervous. Although our boss looks cold, it's actually easy to talk. You can relax and chat to know." Xiaotang smiled and pointed, watching Zhang Yichen go upstairs before turning back to the car. She held the direction plate and started to be terrible in her brain. Talk to your opinion alone? This is still the first time. Although she said nothing, she still couldn't help but expect something in her heart. Although this man always had a cold face, every time she met, she felt a sense of security that she couldn't say. A few days later, Zhang Yichen called her and said that she could meet her at a cafe near the company and talk about future cooperation when she had time on Friday night. After hearing this, Tang heard it. Her heart was both nervous and excited. After quitting her phone, Lima ran to the cabinet to flip her clothes, muttering, "What should I wear? It's too formal and not like me, too casual and not suitable." On Friday night, Xiaotang specially picked a clean blue dress, which was simple and generous, with a low-end hair, looking clean and neat. She arrived at the agreed cafe 10 minutes in advance, found a seat by the window and sat down, holding a cup of hot cocoa in her hand, and her heart beat a little faster. The night outside the window was beautiful, and the lights in the city flashed one after another, but her brain was full of what to say and how to open her mouth. Just as Hussein was thinking, the door of the cafe was pushed open and he walked in with a slight silence. He was wearing a dark suit, and his atmosphere was still strong, but it was more random than usual, probably because he had removed the belt and had a slightly open mouth of his shirt. He saw Xiaotang at a glance, pointed at her, walked straight over, and sat down opposite her. "Miss Lin, I've been waiting for a long time." His voice was low, and he was tired, but his eyes were very clear, and he looked straight at her. Xiaotang quickly held his hand and said with a smile, "It's okay, I'll arrive just now. Chief, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I'm actually a little nervous, afraid that I'll say it badly." After hearing the words, the corner of his mouth slightly slided, and a smile that was almost invisible appeared. "No need to be nervous, I just want to talk to you about the future of the honey cabin. Your dessert is very distinctive, and I don't think it should be limited to a small area. If there is an opportunity, I want to help you expand your brand, such as opening a branch or cooperating with more companies. What do you think?" Xiaotang heard his words and his fingers clenched the cup unconsciously. She looked down at the heat in the cup, and her brain looked like a movie, recalling the things she had opened in the past few years. from being busy until dark, to having help and stable orders, she was actually very satisfied. But the words of sarcasm seemed to have put a small seed in her heart, making her begin to imagine greater possibilities. Person, thank you for your affirmation. She raised her head and looked at him seriously. In fact, I never thought about how big the store is. I just wanted to make every cake with my heart so that the people in the store can feel happy. However, I am very moved by what you said, but I am afraid that I am not capable, and if I don't do it well, I will be in debt to your trust. After hearing the words, his eyes softened a little. He leaned on the back of the chair. His temperament was calm and powerful. Ms. Lin, ability can be cultivated, and opportunities are not often available. I can see that your enthusiasm for dessert is more important than anything else. I can help you solve the funds, manpower, and channels. You just need to be dedicated to what you are good at. Of course, I will not force myself to decide the right to you. Xiaotang was shocked, and he didn't expect that he would say so directly. She bit her lip and plucked up her courage and asked, Person, why are you helping me like this? I mean, the Honey Lodge is just a small shop, so it shouldn't be worth your thoughts, right? Jason Yen was silent for a while, and his eyes moved out the window, as if he had fallen into some kind of recollection. After a moment, he said in a low voice, Because your dessert reminds me of something. A long time ago, someone like you made something to me with his heart and the taste. I thought I had forgotten it for a long time, but your cake made me feel that way again. So, I hope your store can go farther, which is also an explanation for myself. Xiaotang heard his words, and felt like something was hit in his heart. She never expected that this seemingly cold-looking man actually had such a story hidden in his heart. She suddenly felt that the words were not as difficult as they appeared to be. He just kept his mind too tight and didn't easily let people get close. Person, thank you for telling me all this. She said lightly, her smile warm and sincere. I will seriously consider your suggestions. If I decide to do it, I will do my best and not disappoint you. The comments were a little bit too much, and they didn't say anything more. The two of them talked about some details of cooperation, and the atmosphere was relaxed. Xiaotang found that when he was rude in his face, he actually said it was quite reasonable, and occasionally he would show some delicate expressions, which made people feel that he was not that unattainable. At the end of the conversation, Jane Yanze suddenly asked, Miss Lin, what do you like to do in addition to making desserts? Xiaotang was stunned for a moment, but he didn't expect that he would ask such a private problem. She smiled and said, There is nothing special. She just likes to read books and occasionally draw pictures. Then she will take a walk in the nearby park on weekends and breathe in fresh air. What about you? What about you? After hearing the words, there was a flash of surprise in her eyes, as if she didn't expect her to ask. He lowered his head and took a sip of coffee and said lightly, Me? Work takes up most of the time, and there is no special love. However, I have recently started to think that it is quite good to stop and eat cake. Xiaotang heard it and couldn't help laughing. Then if you have time in the future, please come to the honey cabin and I'll give you a new taste to taste. Yen Yanze nodded, and the corner of his mouth raised that almost invisible smile. The two of them talked until almost 9 o'clock, but they stood up and said they had to leave first if they had something to do. Xiaotang didn't leave much, so they sent him to the door and watched him leave in the car. That night, Xiaotang returned home, and her brain was full of the words she said. She lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and seemed to have two forces pulling in her heart. One side is fear of the unknown, and the other side is expectation for the future. Finally, she decided to try it out. After all, life should be more courageous. In the next few months, Xiaotang, with the help of his advice, began to prepare the Honey Lodge expansion plan. She talked about the price of long-term supply with several material dealers, asked an experienced store manager to help manage it, and rented a new store in the city center, intending to open the first branch. Although he is usually busy, he will take time to meet her and give her some suggestions whenever there is an important decision. He didn't talk much, but he could click on the key every time, making Xiaotang feel particularly stubborn. Gradually, the relationship between the two people has become no longer as simple as cooperation. Xiaotang found that although his words were still cold, he always had more patience to her. Every time she gave the order, he would occasionally come down to answer it, and then chatted about a few words. And she began to feel at ease when she was there. That night, when Xiaotang finished the decoration of the new store, he returned to the honey lodge. It was almost 10 o'clock. She dragged her tired body to open the door, and found that the lights in the store were still lit. Lin Xiaotang was sitting at the small table by the window, holding a book in her hand, looking down, with a focused look. "Assistant? Why are you here?" Xiaotang asked in surprise and hurriedly walked over. Lin Xiaotang raised his head and saw her, his eyes softened a little. "I heard Zhang say you were busy late today. After passing here, I came and checked it out. Without the door, I came in and waited." Xiaotang heard it and felt warm in her heart, but she still said with a slight lip service, "Actually, you're in the middle of the night in the house. But for the long time you've been waiting for me, I'll ask you to have a cake. There are still strawberry mousse that I haven't sold." The slander did not refuse, so he took the cake she had come to, and took a bite slowly. Xiaotang sat opposite him, holding his chin and looking at him suddenly. "As a matter of fact, you said, if I really made the honey hut bigger, would I forget why I opened this store?" After hearing the words, he put down his fork and looked at her seriously. "No. As long as you remember that you like to make desserts and the smiles you show when you see others eat what you make, no matter how big the store is, your original intention will not change. I believe you can do it." Xiaotang heard his words, his eyes felt a little hot. She lowered her head and smiled, saying lightly, "Thank you, always. Really, with you here, I feel that no matter what difficulties I encounter, I can pass." Lin Xiaotang didn't say anything, but just looked at her quietly, with a little warmth in her eyes. The lights in the store are dim and there is a faint sweet fragrance in the air, and the time seems to be quiet. The two of them sat there, and neither of them broke the tranquility. A few months later, the first branch of Honey House officially opened, and the business was better than imagined. On the day of business, Xiaotang was busy and sweating, but the smile on her face never stopped. Su Xiaoman and Zhang Yichen were both busy greeting customers, and the store was as hot as a festival. And the words came for the first time, wearing a casual outfit, standing among the crowd, low-key and unrestrained. After finishing a wave of guests, Yutang raised his head and saw him. He ran over and said with a smile, "General, you are here. There are many people today and there is nothing to entertain. Why don't I make you a cup of lemon tea?" His words were sluggish, his eyes fell on her face, and his voice was low. "Don't be busy, today you are the protagonist, enjoy this moment. I just came to see it and told you that I'm very proud to be able to go this step with you." After hearing this, Tang felt like she was filled with something, full and warm. She smiled and pointed her head, her eyes brightly. "Thank you, my words. Really, without you, there would be no honey hut today." When Lin Xiaotang heard her calling him by his name, he was stunned for a moment, and then a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Xiaotang looked at his back and suddenly understood something in his heart. She knew that no matter what the honey cabin would become in the future, no matter what relationship she would develop with her words, the warmth and sweetness at this moment would be deeply engraved into her memory like every piece of cake she made. As night fell, the opening event was approaching the end of the year. Xiaotang and Yan Yan stood at the entrance of the new store together, watching the last few customers leave. The lights on the street lights up, and the sweetness of the cake remains in the air. They stood shoulder to shoulder, no one said anything, but they knew in their hearts that something had changed quietly without knowing it.